You know, when I saw you last time, we kind of talked about the way the UFC was matchmaking you, and you did say, like, it would be great to have some bigger names. That's what I asked for. And then you have this close fight with Bautista, and I know that, you know, you're back here to win a championship. You're not back here to just make some appearances. How did you feel about that fight? And then the result, it's a good fight. I mean, obviously you still have it, but it's a loss. How have you handled, like, that, and what do you think it does to your career and your motivations?
Sim, cara, pra mim fiquei muito
That's
triste com
just
isso.
not what I'm here for. I'm paid to fight. I'm paid to go through people. And I'm not one to choose opponents or whatever. I mean, if the UFC wants to put people in front of me, I'll do it. And I know what I can do. I know my skill set. I know that how aggressive I can be. And it didn't develop. It didn't happen. I didn't want to watch fights for quite some time. I didn't want to even deal with fights. And I know what I can bring to the table. And it doesn't matter if it's a big name or a small name. I mean, the UFC, after my fight with Martinez, just thought, I mean, with the fight against Bautista, they said, well, after that fight he had against Martinez, like, maybe that guy's got a round on him. I'm going to go through him, and I'm supposed to, again, it doesn't matter the name. I'm supposed to go through these people on my way to the top. So I'm not going to choose opponents, but I was not happy about that. I was pissed off about that fight.
All right. So I was going back and forth on doing this video or the JDM versus Makhachev video first, coming off the back of 315, but I decided to do the latter and push out something a little more positive before I start turning green. That was a warm-up video. This is what's really been at the front of my mind the past few days. Jose Aldo has been used like an old cum sock by the UFC and thrown in the dumpster. One of the GOATs of the sport, someone who fought at the highest level for 20 odd years, was undefeated for 10 years under WEC and UFC before that Conor fight, and continued to pose problems for contenders for the next 10 years. He may have lost a lot of them, but still, this man is a Hall of Famer, certified UFC royalty, and they did him like this. I am turning green! For those who missed it, Aldo had his final fight in the cage this past Saturday against Ayman Zahabi, or Ariel Helwani as more people know him. It was close, but he lost, and decided enough was enough, hung him up. Now in fairness, he didn't indicate beforehand that this would be his last one if he were to lose it, so I'll let it slide that Anthony Tortuga Smith got a retirement package and he didn't. Although given how he's been treated by the promotion for the last year or so, it wouldn't surprise me either way. Now some might be asking, why am I so annoyed? He got pay-per-view spots in his last 3 fights and was probably paid pretty handsomely as a veteran of the sport who still packs a wallop. So what's the big deal? The big deal is, look at these guys. Now, my viewers probably know all 3 of these gentlemen, but your average UFC casual and even a lot of avid watchers are either not going to know who the hell they are, or at least they're going to have to think about it for a second. These are not fights you give a returning Jose Aldo. Now with the Jonathan Martinez one, I think that was fine. Aldo had been out of the cage for a couple years, and this was a tough matchup, but further down the rankings, so it wasn't too much to ask, wasn't too ridiculous. This was like him dipping his toe back in. And what was impressive is he actually pulled it off. He didn't look any less sharp than he did 2 years earlier. And it helped that out of these 3 guys in particular, Martinez definitely had the biggest name value at the time. He was seen as kind of a budding prospect, like he was really coming into things. He had the scalps of Adrian Yanez and Said Nurmagomedov after all, so Aldo beating him showed he still had it. And so this placed him at the door of the top 10. So who'd they give him to welcome him back to the big leagues? A fellow veteran? A big name fight we surprisingly never got in the past? Nope. He got Mario Batista. Okay, if you insist that we need to see him prove that he can do this again, and if he wins this one, he'll move up exactly 1 spot in the rankings and be in the same spot he was in before. Sure thing, UFC. So it was kind of annoying, but given how good he looked against Martinez, I think most assumed he would do the same thing to Batista. Then we could get to some big fights, and maybe if he keeps winning, we could see Aldo creep towards the belt again. So then we get the fight, and Batista saw what Merab did in a performance so smelly and corrosive to watch that it stalled fan interest in him for a solid year or so, and decided that was the avenue he was going to take. I know it makes sense on paper to try and grapple the Muay Thai striker, but Aldo is pretty much untakedownable. He is rock solid. We've seen what Merab can do with the chain wrestling to other fighters, and he could not for the life of him take this man down. So he basically just got a repeat of that, but it was worse. It was a big, floppy, flaccid penis fight. And what's worse is Aldo technically probably should have won on landing more damaging shots, but Batista racked up control time by hugging him against the cage for most of the fight, so it didn't go his way. Real nice, UFC. Glad you're taking care of your boy. You'd think the top brass could have looked at this and been like, okay, he didn't really lose that, so let's give him a good fight next. It's Jose Aldo after all. But nope. Instead, he was matched up against Ayman Zahabi. Oh, for fuck's sake, man. How many times are we gonna do this? As mentioned previously, they go in there, have a good scrap, Aldo gets the short end, and retires. This is just so very annoying to me. Think of the fights we could have gotten in the twilight of this man's career that were swiped from him and us as the fans. I was so excited when it was announced he was returning, and even more excited when he beat Martinez and showed that despite his age, he could still handle himself in there. Wanted to see things like the Chito Vera rematch, or Henry Cejudo, or Figgy, or Corey Sandhagen. Much of these are fights we never got, and would have been a great deal more fun for the fans and more eyeballs would have been on them. And if he won a couple of these, we could have been looking at a Sean O'Malley fight or a Merab rematch. I'm not exactly sure he'd get all the way to the belt, let's be real, but I wanted to see the attempt, for old time's sake, you know? But instead, he was handcuffed by the UFC with this ass crap matchmaking. Now, this is nothing new. This is always the playbook for the UFC. They match up their old legends against prospects and young up-and-comers so they can basically use their name on their resume to boost their stock. I wish this wasn't the case, but it's just the harsh nature of the sport. It's a cruel, unfeeling leviathan. But here's the thing. Usually when an old vet goes in there against one of these young, hungry killers and wins, you're supposed to reward them with more alluring fights. Jim Miller was out here knocking dudes out all the way up to 40, and so he earned himself a spot on UFC 300. I'm aware it's also because he was on 100 and 200. I don't really think they would have given him that spot if he was losing fights leading up to it. But instead, they just made Aldo face the same test again and again until he gave up and retired. How sad is that, man? Now, why did this happen? Why did they do him like this? Well, I think, and I'm convinced at this point, that this was all some sort of punishment for him going away and foraying into boxing. Do we really think it's beneath Dana to be petty like that? I don't think so. I think it's precisely in his character to give this silent fuck you to Aldo and use his name to build up other prospects until he eventually starts losing and tosses in the towel. Maybe I'm reaching, but I can't see why else they do him like this. They really don't like when you get out from under their thumb and go into anything, especially boxing. God forbid you go into boxing. But regardless, all my bitching and complaining, none of this can take away from what a legend this man is. It's incredibly impressive how long he stayed in there competing at the elite level, and he gave us an assortment of unforgettable moments in the cage. I wish you nothing but the best, sir.
Briefly does, but Mendes reconnects him and he's free.
Oh! That's it! Trying to finish it! And it is all over!
It's over.
Jose Aldo knocks out Chad Mendes and remains
He
the
just
UFC
ran out of the
featherweight
octagon
champion.
and ran right into the crowd. And they are swarming him now. This is nuts.
And he did it with literally seconds remaining in the round.
He just ran out of the cage and ran right into the crowd. And there's a near riot going on here right now.